Hello, Team Dark. Welcome to the first show in quite some time, and it's a pre-recorded one, doing something a bit different this time, and it's a comic book gold, where we're going to be talking to a comic book creator, someone who's working on the kind of comics and the kind of genre that I like. We are diving deep into the world of horror, Gothic horror. So without further ado, and so we don't keep them waiting in the old green room there, I'm going to introduce you all to Nick Henry.
Are you Wally?
Hey Nick, how you doing?
Yeah, all right,
Good
mate.
stuff.
You're all right.
Good stuff, man. You're already branded, I see.
I've got one of the old t-shirts out of the cupboard there, so yeah.
Excellent, excellent.
Esteban Tucker for you.
Excellent. Yeah. So the name of your comic, if you want to tell people the name of your comic or your graphic novel.
Yeah, London Gothic. And it's a 4-part, it's 4 chapters to get the whole entire first series done. At the moment, we're on chapter 1.
How long have you been working on London Gothic, or when did you conceive it and actually start working on it?
Oh, it goes back to when I was a small feral kid in London. And we really were. We had nothing, and we used to run riot all around the place, you know. And used to go down a lot of the Thames, and they had these big sewer outlets and things like that, you know. And we dare each other to go in, and I didn't care. I'd go in there, you know. And while you're in there, it's really weird because you know the walls are dripping. The atmosphere is just really eerie, and you just think to yourself, "Oh, this is my scene. I love it." You know, some people wouldn't. I'm a bit weird and strange, so I just loved it. And I'd come up with some weird stories. We'd go walking all around London and cobbled streets, and in the 70s, a lot of the streets round by London Bridge were still cobbled and old wharfs, and you know, really spooky. And I'd just tell stories to my mates, and I would literally crack the life out of them with some of the things I would come up with. And from there, I just got into horror. It was my thing, you know. So growing up, I was always watching horror films, and you know, the little characters that I invented, you know, as a child, they stayed with me, and all the way through to when I even had my children, and you know, they were sort of like 7, 8, 9, and sitting there, oh, it's spooky time of year, you know, tell us a story, and I tell them. The original one I came up with, funny enough, before Neil Gaiman done it, was a Sandman. I invented a Sandman character that used to creep around the houses and nick, you know, go in the kids' bedrooms and stuff to try and get them to sleep.
Yeah.
You know, my idea was, right, you've been naughty, now I'm going to frighten the crap out of you. You're going to go to sleep, or you're just going to have nightmares, and I'm going to have to lay here with you and you go to sleep. So yeah, I used to do, you know, silly things like that, and come up with stuff. And then as the years progressed, I used to have it all in my head, really, of all different things, and something would happen, and I'd think, oh, you know, that sounds good. You know, I wish I could. And I'm not a writer. I never professed to be a writer. I've never really written anything. And it got to a stage where my wife said to me, like a few years ago, she went, do you know what, these stories you tell me, especially when you've had a couple of single malts, you know, you should really put these down because you're not getting any younger. So, you know, and I said, yeah, okay. And I used to sit there and she'd write them down, and I'd go, right, wouldn't this be good? Wouldn't that be good? And then, you know, demons here, and, you know, things like that, and all myths and legends. And, yeah, it just all sort of came together. And from her little journal that she was writing from me telling her, we came up with a little world. It was really weird. And the strange thing is my wife is actually, she's a lot of men say their wives are witches. She's an actual witch. She's a pagan witch. So when we was doing it, she said to me, oh, you know, we got to have a witch in there, and we can have these symbols and that symbol and the satanic symbol and all that. And I said, yeah, sounds brilliant. And we came up with it. And during the lockdown, I was out of work for about, I don't know, a month. My company shut down. We was only out of work for a month. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. And I bought myself a Mac, and I looked at all online, you know, how to do a graphic novel. I thought, I don't want to do a book. I can't write a book. I'm not that clever. Let me give it. I want to see people to see it, you know. And I learned about how to do a comic book script where all you've got to do is it's raining, it's dark, the moon is full, and and this is what they say. And I basically went through it and done a few. And that's where it came from, really. And when I started to write it, I don't know how, mate, it just came. The whole lot just came. And like I said, I've never written anything. And I'd let my wife read it and she'd go, "You didn't write that." I did, yeah, I did. "No, you did. Someone else has done it. You've just told them. You've got someone on the end of the Mac doing it." I was like, "I really did, yeah, I did it, yeah." And yeah, so it grew from there, really, mate. That was it. And
yeah, well, I've had a sneak peek. You've been kind enough to send me a copy. I'm halfway through it. It's a cracking read. It's thoroughly enjoying it. So you've sent me some of your, because Comic Book Gold, I like to bring up things that have influenced you in the past, things that you kind of like, perhaps, there's that Pavarotti in the background.
funny enough, you've got an English Bull Terrier as your logo, is that right?
I have, yeah.
I've actually got one that appears in the book. Yeah, it's called Ghost, and my dog's based on that.
Oh, so that's your. Oh, right. Okay, cool.
That's
Yeah,
the other one.
That's weird because my dog is based on the dog that I had when I was a child. It was an English Bull Terrier called Snowy, and she only had 1 year because her mother bit one of her ears off when she was born. I know, so she was a bit tough.
Yeah, they really are. But the one you can hear is my Jack Russell. I've got a Bull Terrier, the Jack Russell. The Jack Russell's just a gobshite. She just wants attention because she knows I'm up here. She can hear me talking.
That's it. Right. So, well, she'll get serenades in the background then.
Yeah.
As we talking about serenading, I'm going to segue into a classic movie that you said was an influence to you, and it's not just you. Peter Gilmore picked this movie as well as one of his picks.
Really?
I picked the comic book House of Hammer from back in the 70s because it had an adaptation of it by John Bolton, which was really, really nice. And the movie is Curse of the Werewolf.
Yeah.
Is this movie something that you would pick over like the old Lon Chaney stuff or anything that came since? Is that because of the Gothic atmosphere you got from those early Hammer movies?
It is. And also, I don't know what it was with it, but there used to be on BBC Two always a late night horror double bill. I'm going back a long time now, and I absolutely loved them. And you'd have a black and white one and a colour one, and it was like, what we're going to get, and but they seem to show the Curse of the Werewolf quite a bit. It was one of these repetitive ones, but I loved it. I just thought it was great. The Gothic, Oliver Reed. I just thought it was brilliant. The way it was put together, and when you go to Hammer Horror, you're going to have an element of cheese, and it's great. That's what you want. And I just thought it mixed it up really well, really well. But he always looked so bloody serious, didn't he?
Yeah,
it's great.
It's like a method acting werewolf. It's a shame that his career at Hammer really only produced a few films. A couple of swashbucklers, Paranoic, and this. If he got to play a few more creatures or characters in Hammer, I think that would have just been fantastic. And it might also help them kind of like stay relevant when they moved into the 70s. Having an actor like him involved. But yeah, this is one of my favourites as well. It annoys my mate Statistical Zero, not the movie so much as the poster. The fact that the poster has him carrying his mother on the poster. They used that image for the poster. But it's a great poster.
It's just a great film. I just think that some films they just stand the test, and you could put it on late one night now, and people could watch that. And I know it was like the predecessor to sort of American Wolf in London and stuff like that. and you know, you could see the elements of those sort of films within The Curse of the Werewolf, even going up to Dog Soldiers, which is another great
Yeah.
film, you know, an indie
Yeah.
film, and those sort of films. You could see that it had that element of, I don't know, it was like there was a little bit of campness in it, but it was really, really good as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think it is such a good film. Really.
It's that sense of melodrama that they had in those films where they took it seriously. So it
Yeah,
was like it wasn't like a wink wink. It was like, we'll take this seriously. We know it's ridiculous, but the more seriously we take it, the better it'll be. It kind of is, you know,
yeah,
to the point where they'd always have like a comedy scene or a comedy character or something in the movie. You know, it was
yeah,
one of these things that Hammer did, kind of like a Shakespearean idea where they suddenly have this one sequence, you know, with the gravediggers, that kind of
yeah.
approach.
And
But yeah,
Toxic Vibes. Yeah.
yeah, I love all that stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
it was just great, and I suppose that also probably had a bit of a. It's in my weird brain that, you know, with London Gothic we would have that element of, you know, you break it up with a bit of comedy. There's that dark humour. I
yep,
think when things are too serious, they get a bit boring, or a bit too much. Let's break it up
yeah,
a little bit and have characters like, you know, that have been in films with a dark humour that you get
yeah.
on with.
That's kind of my approach as well. Because for Ale So Dark, Werewolves and Vampots, I thought the ghouls in my story they're essentially the Bash Street Kids. If the Bash Street Kids were invincible flesh-eating ghouls, you know, so, and I don't
Brilliant,
hide it. They look like the Bash Street Kids, and
brilliant.
it's just I just thought I just want to have that kind of like sense of the 60s and 70s surreal horror that you used to get.
Yeah,
Which brings me to, because you've already mentioned him, yeah, I'm going to go with this as a second choice for your comic book gold to date, which is more of a movie horror gold than anything else. And that is Vincent Price. Anything with Vincent Price.
yeah. I've got a bit of a story about Vincent. He's
Right.
and I'm allowed to call him that apparently. Uh, in the 70s, my dad he got a job, funny enough, working as a gallery warder at the British Museum. His job was to make sure people didn't touch the exhibits, but because he was there so much in different areas, he walked around when he was bored and he'd read everything, and he was like a fountain of knowledge of crap. I used to say, you know, crap about everything. He could tell you everything. And if I used to now and again, if I was playing up, my mum used to go, "I'll take him at work with you, get him out of my way," you know? Especially if it was raining and I weren't allowed to run right in the streets. So he used to now and again I used to go with him, and I'd get a pad and a pen, and he would sit me somewhere in a gallery somewhere. It could be, you know, like ancient Greece, or I remember being in one where there was lots of clocks and things like that. But the favourite was the mummies, and I used to go into the big room, and there was a mummy room, and they had a mummy there, and we used to call him Ginger because he actually had ginger hair, right? And I could never believe it. And my dad used to say, you know, he's ginger, you know, and he's, I don't know, thousands, millions of years old. So I used to go and sit and draw and everything. Anyway, he used to get a lot of celebrities come round, and they were unannounced. And the only time that he knew was because the supervisor would come in and say, "John, we have to close the gallery down. We got some people coming in. These people, when they leave, these people are coming in for X amount of time." So I was there on this day, and I'm sitting in a chair, in my dad's chair that he was supposed to sit in, but he's always wandering around. And the bloke come up and he said, "Oh yeah, we've got a celebrity coming in." Said, "Okay, fine." So my dad said, "Sit there and don't say nothing. Don't open your mouth. I know what you like." I went, "All right, Dad, yeah, yeah." So anyway, in comes Vincent Price.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Bloody hell, I watch you on the telly, you know." You know, and I was actually named, my brother and my sister were allowed to name me. I'm the youngest. And my sister named me Nicholas because of the Mask of the Red Death, where Nicholas, Nicholas, and she's driving him mad, shouting it down the chimney.
Mm.
So he's coming round, and my dad's talking to him, and he's saying, "Yeah, this is such and such, and this is BC, whatever." And I stood up and I went, "I'm named after you." And he's and he's like, looked at me funny. He went, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Nicholas." I said, "I know your name's Vincent, but your name's Nicholas as well." So he said, "No, I played Nicholas." So I said, "Right, okay, right, fine." He said, "What's your name?" And he started to talk to me, and he said to me, "Could you know about this?" And I said, "Look, I know this one. It's called Ginger." And he thought it was highly amusing. My dad's there going. Anyway, I went round and round, and he was so interested because he got my pad and he was going through the drawings. And what a lovely man! And he said, "Do you like horror?" I said, "I absolutely love horror, you know. And one day I'm going to be in a horror film." I told him. So he said, "Okay." And he drew me a little picture and signed it. And he put to Nicholas from Nicholas Vincent Price. And I don't know what happened to it. I've got to be honest, because as the years go by, you put things away and it all went. But yeah, so I was lucky enough to meet Vincent Price. And at the end of London Gothic, as a sort of homage, because my dad died a couple of years ago during the COVID, and as a sort of like a, I don't know, a thing to my dad, is the British Museum appears in it, and you can see a person and a man and a young child walking past, which Mike drew in as me and my dad. So we thought that was really nice. So yeah, it was all like all the connection, and you know, fed my weird warped mind with the British Museum of all these things that I didn't care about books. I just wanted to know what gory stuff was there.
No, well, that's a cool story. The way the way you're linked to Vincent through the name of Nicholas and Ginger the Mummy as well. That's
Brilliant. I don't even know if it's still there. I mean, I moved away from London a long time ago, and I used to go down to the British Museum quite a bit. But yeah, it would be good to know if he's still there, old Ginge, because he's definitely
Charlie's London. See if she could pop in and have a look. See if Ginger's there. Brilliant. So is Mask of the Red Death, is that probably one of your favourites, or?
It's not really. Vincent Price, I think one of my favourites that he ever did was the Dr. Phibes.
Yes, yeah.
And I just thought that's just brilliant. You know, he never took himself serious. It was absolutely fantastic. And obviously, I didn't see that till later, because that was made, I think, in the late 70s, mid to late 70s. So, you know, we didn't get it on our tellies then. We only had the 4 channels or the 3 channels. But yeah, so yeah, I love that one.
They're amongst my favourites as well, I think, because they're so baroque as well and so over the top. Theatre of Blood, I think that's probably my favourite. Every time I watch it every year or two, you notice something about it that's slightly different, or something you'd never quite noticed before. Usually it's something that's humorous or even just something that's nasty, because it's an incredibly nasty film, but for one that's so funny as well. So I think it was just, these are the ones that he made in the UK as well. And those are the ones that tend to jump out for me. We are going to do a watch along on the channel in a few weeks' time. We're going to watch House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a cracking wee movie. That
he was just one of those actors that when he spoke, he was like, it just looking at him, it was just made. He was made for horror. It was just, he couldn't have been anything else.
Not really, no.
No, it wouldn't have been a cowboy or it just had to be in a horror film, because he was just brilliant.
You could see him as like a corrupt cattle baron who's maybe been over in Mexico for a while, you know. But you could never, you couldn't see him as a marine or anything like that either, could you? It's like, it's not going to work. But that's it. The late great Vincent Price, brilliant. You've got 5 choices you've sent me, and one I'm not all that au fait with, and that's Penny Dreadful. And it's a TV show. What is it about that show?
Because when it came out, it was quite a long time before London Gothic, but a lot of the characters that whoever wrote it, and I don't know who wrote it, but myself and my wife was watching it, and I just said to her, "Bloody hell, whoever's written this, they're in the same wavelength." They've taken, you know, we haven't got werewolves and vampires in London Gothic, but they took, like, you know, a vampire, a werewolf, Frankenstein, and they brought them all together, which to me was, oh, that was just lovely. You know, that was bringing back Hammer horror. You know,
Yeah.
and you just plonked them all in there without Abbott and Costello. It's like a series, you know. It is so good. They did bring another series out a couple of years ago where they took it to America, which I think we watched the first one of, and we just couldn't get into it. It was all about Louisiana voodoo, stuff like that. But that's not my thing, so we didn't really watch much more of it. But the actual couple of series of 2 or 3 where it was Victorian London, and it was just wow. I just thought, how good is this? And the stories and the characters that they wrote and developed from sort of like Frankenstein and werewolves and stuff like that were just really good. And maybe that popped in there and helped me along with the ones that I've done, you know, with the myths and legends that I've sort of created there.
I need to get myself a box set of that and give it a watch at some point.
Definitely. It's a great gothic horror. It is really good. The scenes, the setting, you know, and when Mike was illustrating London Gothic, and he would send me the pages through, as I'd give him the whole entire sort of like chapter 1, and he'd send them through, and I'd say to him, no, I need more crap in that sewer. I need that to be like this, and I want it to, because I've seen it somewhere, and probably telly or films, and you know, Penny Dreadful, where I want that to be set like that, but with my characters.
Yeah.
So, and Mike's brilliant. He's absolutely fantastic. He'd just go away, and at first it was like I don't know. We were there, but afterwards I didn't even have to ask him. He just used to do it, and I'd go, "Wow, you've just picked out exactly what's in this weird, strange noggin that I haven't even got to say change anything. It looks brilliant." So he's what I call London Gothic fired. He was one of the first ones to become London Gothic fired.
Gothic fired. Brilliant. So by the time I get to that final page, I will be London Gothic fired.
Definitely.
It's not easy to say that. It's like anybody who comes on my shows becomes a member of Team Dark, whether they like it or not. So it's a similar thing.
Brilliant. I'd be honoured with that.
Excellent. Your next choice is The Exorcist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, that I've got a video on my channel where I show the first official releases of The Exorcist that I bought, and actually was working at HMV at the time when they brought them out, you know, the official ones, because the BBFC had not given a certificate for so many years for home viewing. For a good while, I was obsessed with The Exorcist. So when did you first see it, and what were your thoughts on it?
Probably when I was too young, because as you could probably remember, video shops were around, and if you were lucky enough, you could get what they called the white list from under
the white list. Oh, yeah. See, you had the white. We had a book. We had the book, and the book, the book was like, the book had like mock video covers that they'd made themselves.
That's it, yeah. we didn't get that luxury. We just got a white list that it said whatever was out at the time, and obviously it was a lot of pirate films and stuff like that. And the guy in the video shop, I was probably about 10 or 11 at the time, and I used to say to him, "Can I have your posters when you're finished?" And I went in there one day with my mates, and they weren't supposed to give you all this sort of stuff. You weren't supposed to be watching this, but they never really cared at the time.
No.
I was from Brixton, so you know they don't care. Get them out of the shop, these kids. You know what I mean? They're probably going to thieve all the sweets. So you know, let's give them what they want. So we went, well, we'll have The Exorcist then. And the guy said to me, he said, "You want the posters? I'll give you the posters." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, funny enough," he said, "so for some reason I've got some posters, movie posters of it at the back." And I went, "What, The Exorcist?" And he went, "Yeah." So he gave me one of these. So in my bedroom, which was obviously very tiny, we lived in like a really small council flat, I was covered, everywhere was covered in The Exorcist with the priest and the light and that, and it was just wow. So we took that home, me and a few of my mates, and I used to knock about with kids who were a lot older than me, probably sort of 13, 14. put to ourselves. It was just like so scary. It was just like, you know, and you, we watched it a little while ago, me and the missus, and you still. It seems like when you get older, because you've seen it probably so many times, it's a bit dragged out. You know, it takes a little while to get there, but it's still so great when it gets there.
Yeah. The sound design in it's amazing. The sound design just really kind of draws you in and makes you feel uncomfortable. Yeah. I prefer to watch the original theatrical cut. I'm not too fond of the changes and things that have been added to it. I like to see it the way I saw it when it was on the white list back in the day.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, it's just a cracking film. I did see the other day that, and I don't know if it's true or not, but they talked about remaking it. Which some things I think you should leave. You shouldn't do it. You know, once you get a classic, don't touch it.
Last but by no means least, probably the ultimate video rental from the whitelist would be the Evil Dead.
Yeah, I mean, do you know, I love Bruce Campbell. I just think he's brilliant. And you know, when you look at that film and you think that Sam Raimi had the tiniest budget, he got all his mates on board, people that he was, you know, in college with and stuff like that, and they made that.
Yeah,
that's just once in a lifetime. That's one of those things that you get out there, you think, well, we've done a bit of a film, might be all right, and then it just explodes, and you're like, wow, you know, it must have been fantastic for them. But yeah, for its time, that was so original. Going back, same as the Exorcist, you know, no one had ever done anything like that. But yeah, the Evil Dead with the gore and the demons and, you know, all that sort of stuff, and another one that was pretty sort of, you know, didn't take itself too serious. There's comedy in there. If you found it, there was comedy in there.
Nobody was telling them what they could and couldn't do. They just thought of things and did them, you know, which even then for small independent movies, you didn't really see people going at it that way and doing the kind of stuff they were doing. So yeah, much like you, that was a video rental. For me that I just kept taking back out again. It's like I just went back and says, "Can I rent this again?"
Yeah,
and I think I had too many nights and just kept watching it, and you're like,
it's just brilliant.
And also being a pirated video that is even grainier and more VHS-y than a normal VHS just made it seem all the scarier and all the grungier.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
and it was banned in so many places that the only way you could get it was on a pirate video. I mean, now when you look at some of the stuff that's on telly and on shows and that, it's quite tame, really.
Yeah, I know. I know it's just normal within the first 5 minutes of a normal TV show to have people's heads explode.
Yeah. I think we watched the first Game of Thrones the other night, and it was like the new one, and it was but it doesn't shock people now. You know, it's one of those things. That's one of the problems with a lot of the horror films, though. When you get them, and people want to shock for the sake of it, and I just think to myself, don't really go anywhere. You know? When we did the London Gothic, I said to Mike, you know, there's some scenes in there, as you well know. There's one with Punch and he's first, and when I wrote it, I actually felt physically sick. It was weird because obviously they get children, and I said, I don't really know whether we should put that in, but it's not for the sake of it. That's what Mike said. He said, you're not doing this for the sake of it. You're doing it because it's the story. So leave it. And if people don't like it, they don't like it. A lot of people will get it, and they don't know how it goes forward anyway. That's the problem with having a chapter one. I mean, as you well know, these things take so long to illustrate, to colour, to edit, to letter. You know, I'd love to go, look, there's all 4 chapters. There you go. But we just couldn't do it. We had to get it out there before I get any older, and I won't be able to get up the stairs to the computer. So but yeah, it's one of those. It was, and there was nothing in there that's shocking for shocking's sake. It's all
Yeah.
done for a reason, and we've had someone actually say that, you know, it was they didn't get it, you know, but they don't know the rest.
Yeah.
So if that same person gets 4 chapters and then goes, and when it gets to the end, they go, oh, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
That's what it was for. But yeah, it is that if we're going back to that, yeah, that the Evil Dead wasn't like that. It was just done because them kids just wanted to do it. They wanted to do it.
Yep, that's it. They just wanted to stick a pencil in the ankle, and they did it. That's the kind of stuff that really annoyed people.
Yeah, I like all of those as well. Like, you know, number 2, I even like the Army of Darkness because I just think that some of that is just so funny. But then Bruce Campbell, you know, I just think he's a guy I'd love to meet because I think I'd have a laugh with him. He's just a loon. It's just, well, you know, whatever he does, I don't think he's even acting. I just think he does it.
So that's your choices then. All good choices, I've got to say. I mean, I've not seen Penny Dreadful, but I'm definitely going to search it out and watch it at some point. Vincent Price, Evil Dead, Curse the Werewolf, Exorcist, fantastic stuff. So I'm going to put a link in the bottom there, so everybody watching, there's a link in the bottom which will take you to Nick's website, and you can get yourself the first chapter of London Gothic. And there's also, you've got quite a substantial preview of the first chapter as well that people can have a look at to get a feel for it. And it does give you a real feel for the kind of story that they're telling, Nick and his team. Thoroughly enjoying London Gothic, and I think everybody should check out your website. We will play out with a trailer so everybody can get a flavour of what's coming their way. So this has been Bully's Comic Book Gold with Bully and Nick tonight. I shall see you all hopefully sooner rather than later. So take care out there. Cheers.
Thanks very much.